Welcome back to Les Schwab Tire Center's Outdoor GPS. It's time for Owin's Field Report, sponsored by Les Schwab Tire Centers.
Now, in this week's report, it's been busy. Chasing steelhead, getting rid of a truck that I absolutely loved, and to have a truck for only 2 years, I'm like, man, I'm gonna miss this thing. But wait until you see what Chevy is lined out now for the 2024. So, and that took a day to get all that kind of handled, right? But the steelhead fishing. Now, I mentioned last week, yes, we are in the midst of spring Chinook season. We're right at the very beginning. It's early. There's fish being caught. Right now, with the conditions that are coming around, we're going to talk about that here in a minute. I would say this week, because of the weather, number one, which is going to put more people out on the water, and the conditions on the Willamette, you're going to see certainly going to see some things change as far as success rates on the Willamette. The Columbia, super sporadic. It was loaded with sea lions and smelt. So pretty much everything from I-5 down. There was a fish or two caught this past week, but it was very, very sporadic. And that's pretty consistent. Lower temperatures, lots of smelt, which puts them off anyway, and sea lions by the hundreds, literally. Which makes you want to be on the Willamette, right? Well, that's going to come around, and again, we're going to get to that here in a minute. But I'm still chasing steelhead. It's starting to get to that point of like, oof. But if conditions are right, you can have some success. So here's some photos. I did have a decent day or two. It was a bit of a struggle the last day out for myself with nothing but lost fish, but did get to play net boy for old fish killer, but that's a whole other story. But there's one beautiful one there. And again, like I said, I fish a lot solo. I wasn't able to get good photos, but I had to at least make sure that I could document these beautiful steelhead that we get to chase. And that was my number one bait right there, a size 20. It is a B&R bead. It's the same thing that in that photo. You can't see it there because somehow it got cut off at the bottom. But there's no hook. I hooked one of the biggest fish I've seen yet this year. And I know it's that story of, I lost the big one. Well, it was. I mean, it ran me down river farther than I'd like to admit. Just to lose it right when I get it close, it was brutal. But for a lot of those folks over the years that have been like, oh, those beads with those hooks so far away, you just snag them. Wrong. You'll see multiple photos here of that in the beak, right in the bottom beak, also in the corner. And you can see that those big 20 mil beads, those fish just jump all over them. I mean, it's just, I'm still kind of stunned at how much those fish actually really, really like these big beads, even in clear water conditions. So Jack Lass mentioned it last week. Don't overlook them. Yes, it might be a little awkward, but just think about the size of your yarnies or baits of eggs. It's not that big. It's certainly something to keep in mind. I thought that was kind of cool. Just a fatty. I mean, it was a good week. I can't remember exactly what my numbers were. I think I was 5 for 7 or something like that total. So no complaints at all. But it was a bit frustrating, especially the last day that we had a chance to get out there. It was definitely a bit tougher. But yeah, as you can tell, I'm putting that Silver Widow edge rod together. That first photo that Ryan put up there, I was showing you the numbers of that exact 11'4" that we had talked about a few times here. That they came out with this year, that 11'4" Silver Widow, just a phenomenal rod, especially from the bank. It's a little much in the drift boat. So the 10-6, 10-20s that we've talked about, perfect for that. But on the bank, geez, being able to pick a lot of line up and really control the fish is just such an advantage. And here's another one. That's actually a hatchery fish there. You can see with the max clip right in the corner of the mouth, like 9 out of 10 of them. So I love those photos where we can just kind of debunk a lot of the folks out there like, oh, you're just snagging those fish, you're getting them deep. No. This is one of the most fish-friendly ways that you could possibly go after winter steelhead is a bead setup, just because of the hook placement. I'm just telling you, everyone, done correctly is deadly, deadly effective. But I did get a quick little video here. I don't do this a lot. But I had to on this one. Not a monster fish, and this video doesn't do it any justice, but I don't know if that audio is playing through or not. But
fourth one landed, all been wild.
God, they're beautiful.
Right in the corner of the mouth.
They're just, that's why we love these things so much. And there's another 20 millimeter. That's one of the new colors from B&R.
bead.
Yes, I have sponsors that make beads, but I do fish them all.
I love it. Look at that.
But yeah, look at that. I mean, that's what we're all after. I know that we're all changing gears right now, and we should be. It's just that time of year. Things are going to wind down quickly on steelhead. And then, of course, you got to get the release. Ah, I love it. So, yeah, it was a good week chasing steelhead. I don't foresee it really holding out, but who knows? I mean, if you have the time to get out there and you just don't want to start burning herring or burning bait to go chase Chinook around, you know, along the coast, I mean, I'm sure you can't tell this, you know, but anyways, but at the very least, you definitely have some options that are out there. But if you're motivated and you want to get that early springer, this is the way that you do it. Let's take a look at the fish count. So you can see nothing's changed over the falls at Willamette. This past week, nothing's really gone, or nothing has gone over. Even the steelhead numbers have started to wind down a little, but still at 5,200, not bad. In comparison to the last handful of years, that's what management does when you're talking about removing sea lions, but we're not going to get sidetracked. Let's take a look at Bonneville. Picked up a couple. I think last week there was 3 over, now it's 5. So nothing to get excited about. Again, it just tells you that the fish are still below Bonnie, right? But we've only got a couple, 3 weeks before the Columbia is done. It does close on the 5th. That's a Friday, April 5th, that is. So between now and then, things are going to get interesting out there. Let's hope, right? Let's hope at the very least that it does. But nothing, you haven't missed nothing yet. So this is the time to get out there and get started. And I know there's some of you out there that have. So good luck when you get back out there. I hope you got some good bait. River levels, pretty much on par with what they had predicted last week. The Willamette didn't quite go up as high as they initially forecasted, which is fine, but it did blow the color out. We'll get to that in a second. But very, very fishable at 11. Definitely not too much water by any means. Actually, and we've talked about it for years, I'd rather have too much than not enough, right? In so many different things in life. But in this case, you got plenty of water. Let's take a look at the turbidity, though, and you'll see that where it spiked this week, it got up into the 15s-ish, 17s, excuse me, and now it's at 12, right on the money. And 11 is that traditional number, at the very least, where you're like, okay, 11, I can see my prop. You know, if you're in the right situation, you're fishing, right? But it's certainly, you know, it ain't clear or green, but it's right on that cusp. It's right there. If it's not today where you start to see things or see some more reports or hear some things, or maybe if you head out there, you might have, you know, that opportunity, but that color, it's right there. Going into this upcoming week, yes, it could be pretty darn prime. Willamette, or excuse me, the Columbia at 4.6 currently based on the tide. It's going to peak out at just below 6. It's great level. I think the only thing that might slow you down here in the traditional areas that we would chase springers this early in the season, that lower river, you got a couple of things to be concerned with. Smelt, I haven't gotten a report in the last day or two if things are starting to thin out there. They should be, although, if you remember last year, we were way into March before things started to wind down there, so that doesn't help much. And then, of course, lots of sea lions around, and temperature could be a concern. But overall, it is a little early out there, but the fish are coming. Cross your fingers at the very least. Clackamas, my home river, if you're still paying attention to these lower ones. Got this question this week about chasing springers in the tributaries. Way too early to be thinking about that right now. Not that you couldn't, but it's certainly, if you're going to be spending your time, I would focus on the Willamette again or the Columbia. Moving along, you'll see the Wilson along the coast. Bit of a bounce there. It's above its forecast. I got a word from an expert this morning that might be the case, so maybe you know what you're talking about there, buddy. So that's the same thing along the mid-coast. All these levels are very prime. If you're still, again, in that mode and you have the opportunity to get out there, I am not putting my steelhead gear away for a reason, but again, there are springers getting caught, and that is starting to call very, very loud, in my head at the very least. Yesterday it was tying leaders. Today it might just be getting the boat cleaned up because it is filthy from sitting outside through the wintertime, no question about that. So definitely good conditions, but you have to remember, again, it's late in the year, it is the middle of March, and that's traditionally when things start to wind down. Let's take a look, or I shouldn't even say that, an update, right? Your newest package for the weekly giveaway from Procure. Send Jason at Procure an email. Now, it is, We lost it. Now it is set up for spring Chinook. Katie Suniga. Katie, it's good to see you.
It's good to see you. I thought about you guys last week. So I was at the National Weather Service office and I saw the area where they come up with all of those. It was the river forecast. So I got to go and spend some time there because of a story I'm working on. And I was like, oh, I know where this is all put together now.
Was it pretty interesting? That's awesome. I've never seen it.
It was really hard to not stop and just ask a million questions because they were taking me to where I needed to go for my interview. And I was like, but what? It was hard.
Very cool.
I have good news for those who want to wear flip-flops. I know there's some people in the studio here. More sunshine, more 70-degree temperatures, but there is a change, so don't worry. We have some rain in our forecast because I know this is a place I can enjoy and just take hold of rain and be excited about it. It's just not going to be for a bit. We have a few days, a few clouds that come through, but you'll notice we get all the way. This is Monday, now we're getting into Tuesday, and all we're seeing is a few clouds. We have this blocking ridge that is just going to start breaking down tomorrow. This is Monday when we're the warmest, and then Tuesday into Wednesday, that's when things start to cool. And once that breaks down, it allows this trough to come in, and that's when we get a chance to see some showers. So when we look at the longer term, it says dry streak forecast, 4 days dry, Wednesday still a bit of a question mark, and then we could see those showers coming back in Thursday, Friday, and that is because that ridge breaks down and allows those showers to come in, possibly 4 more 70-degree days. Then it's back to spring once we get to next weekend.
Well, of course, we've got to have spring. We got to have the squalls. We got to have the sun, then rain and wind. We can't get away from it this early, right?
Equinox, spring weather begins.
Nah, that's okay. I look forward to it. I got the flip-flops out. That's all I care about right now.
I told you, I knew there was.
I couldn't help it. I mean, geez, I can't help it. Katie, thank you as always. We'll see you tomorrow morning.
I'll be here.
All right, everyone, we're going to cut to a quick break. When we come back, we're going to have one of our favorite dudes here in the studio. I call him a dude when they're in my studio. When I'm in their boats, which I've never been in the boat with this guy, I'm the dude. We've got David Johnson, owner-operator of David Johnson's Guide Service. We're talking nothing but springers, so stick with us. If you want to get a little insight from one of the very best, stick with us here on Outdoor GPS. We'll be right back.
Outdoor GPS is brought to you by P-Line, because we fish, by Hawken Fishing, perfection in fishing gear, and by Haxton's Canvas and Upholstery, the trusted name of the Pacific Northwest.